Well, my engine's may be fixed, mostly, but I'm still stuck out here floating in the vast void between galaxies while they cool down after each jump. This has left me with plenty of time to sit around and do absolutely nothing, because while I can send transmissions, I apparently can't receive them, and hence can't connect with the internet, and I was too dumb to bring a book on this trip. At least all this time myself has given me time to think about theories, so I do have a couple of new things to talk to you guys about, and seeing how I've been dealing with a lot of tech, and also just recently had some dealings with Homeworld, my thoughts have been on Homeworld tech. Primarily the fact that we've seen some odd similarities between some of the technology of Homeworld and some of the abilities of the diamonds. I think the one that comes to mind first is obviously Yellow Diamond's weird taser laser hand beam thing that she does, which seems to have the exact same effect on gems as the gem destabilizer wand, which we've seen in multiple episodes now. This is something we've known since all the way back in the trial. Wow, the trial aired long enough ago now that I can say all the way back in the trial. That's pretty crazy. Anyway, this is something we've known since all the way back in the trial, but it was reconfirmed for us again in Reunited when Yellow Diamond used it to poof Peridot. It's slowed down a bit here for dramatic effect since this is a main character now, so we can see, finally, 100% that it does have the exact same effect as a gem destabilizer wand. Specifically, the gem destabilizer wand that poofed Garnet. This means that in theory, Yellow Diamond could poof every single gem involved in a fusion without having to defuse them first. Just like the destabilizer wand was able to poof Garnet, Ruby, and Sapphire without having to separate Garnet into Ruby and Sapphire first. Honestly, the only thing that doesn't make her, like, super OP is the fact that this seems to be a directed blast, not one that she can fire off in multiple directions at once. And I guess technically she could shoot it from each of her hands at the same time, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. It's a beam, not a wave, so she can't affect more than one gem at a time with each beam that she fires. At least, in theory, she can't. Like, I think at this point we can agree that these wands were probably made in an attempt to reproduce this power of Yellow Diamond so that soldiers could use it in mass. That Homeworld coming upon the technology to do this exact same thing entirely independently of some attempt to reproduce Yellow Diamond's power is too much of a coincidence. So I'm left wondering, are the limitations of the wands compared to Yellow Diamond herself simply due to the fact that Homeworld doesn't have the technology yet to make a ranged version of this in weapon form? That they only up to this point have the ability to make melee versions of a weapon equipped with this power? Or was it decided at the design stage that these weapons would only ever be melees so that these weapons would never have the same exact capability as Yellow Diamond? That these weapons would never be able to give a common gem the full scope of this power that belongs to a diamond? The latter sounds more sinister and is certainly in character with the diamonds. They would certainly want to limit the power of their soldiers even when trying to make them more powerful, if only to ensure that their soldiers don't turn that power against the diamonds themselves. But based on some of the other stuff that we've seen, I'm assuming the former. I'm assuming that it's just limitations of Homeworld technology which make it difficult to turn these melee weapons into ranged ones. And I'm basing that on the other instances of technology that we've seen which seem to be based on diamond abilities. First of all, we know now that Pink Diamond can create gemstones. Whether they're actual living gemstones or not, the show has not revealed to us yet, but she can at the very least create gems from the raw materials of a planet, of a suitable planet, which is all that the injectors do, isn't it? They inject some core material into the ground, which then draws materials from the ground to it to form living gems. That's how they work. We didn't see Pink Diamond's ability in detail when she used it, but the raw materials at least seem to be the same. If we assume that the core material first injected into the ground by the injector is what gives the gem its life and programming, then the ingredients are literally that core material, the material from the earth, and time. Creating a non-living gemstone would just take the material and time, and Pink Diamond did use materials from the earth, and she did squeeze them for a few seconds. A few seconds is time. I think it's safe to say that the injectors were designed with this ability of Pink Diamond's in mind, that they are in fact based off of Pink Diamond's abilities. The flask robinoids that Peridot sent to Earth in order to repair the galaxy warp and prepare for her arrival, I think could very well be based on Pink Diamond's ability to heal things, to repair things. But assuming that this is true, just like the gem destabilizer ones, these tech versions of these powers are not nearly as efficient as the powers themselves. The flask robinoids have to carry a liquid medium within themselves in order to facilitate this repair function. They don't create that fluid themselves the way that Rose created her tears. They have a finite amount of the stuff within them. Therefore, they can, in theory, run out. And the injectors, while they may be able to inject entire kindergartens, I would assume relatively fast, or else they would probably find a different way to deploy them, are large and cumbersome, and I would imagine probably also carry a finite amount of the material that they hold within them. Up to this point, we haven't come across any technology which explicitly seems to connect to either of the other two diamonds. Blue Diamond in particular, I haven't really come across any tech in the show which I even think might tie back to one of her abilities. Like, we can speculate what that tech might look like, but we simply haven't seen it at this point. We simply, as far as I'm concerned, haven't even seen a candidate. But assuming that there is technology based on the abilities of all 4 diamonds, I think we have seen technology that might be based on something that White can do. And that's the stasis field generators, i.e. Peridot's arm and Aquamarine's wand. I know this is an odd leap to make, since we haven't explicitly seen White Diamond do anything like this before, but it makes sense, at least to me. These stasis fields have been shown to immobilize even massive gems. That, to me, seems like exactly the kind of overpowered ability that White Diamond would have. And while we haven't explicitly seen her using an ability like this, I do think we've implicitly seen it. When we first met White Diamond, she was glowing very brightly, as if she were using an ability, as if she were projecting some ability, maybe even from her entire body. And if I and others in the fandom are right in our suspicion that she is using some ability of her own to hold Homeworld together, to prevent it from falling apart more than it already has, wouldn't projecting a stasis ability across the surface of the entire planet be a means by which she could do that? After all, not only does this line up really well with the idea that White's contribution to the cure for corruption will be to make the corrections that Blue, Yellow, and Steven make to the corrupted gem permanent, i.e. she will fix those changes back into place, but the entirety of Homeworld seems to share the same white glow with White Diamond, implying that her glow extends to the entire surface of the planet. Like, it might be tricky to do that without also catching every gem on the planet within the stasis field too, but that doesn't mean that it would be impossible. And yeah, that is a much larger scale version of this ability compared to what we've seen it in tech form, but we've already established that the tech forms of these abilities are more limited than the actual abilities are. I don't know, we can't know for sure, obviously, but it's definitely something interesting to think about while I'm stuck out here for probably at least another week. Oh, and hey, you guys might have some fun thinking about it too. What do you guys think of this theory? Have I managed to reverse engineer something powerful, or are you able to locate some flaws in my reasoning? Specifically this time, I'd like to know, what do you guys think of this idea in general, and if you like it, then what technology do you think might be floating around out there that's based on diamond abilities, technology that we haven't seen yet? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.